So, hello everybody. This is Attila 16. It's been a while. I haven't done that many Wargame video in about a month, and that was mostly because I was preventing myself from doing another good dose of Wargame. And there's Wargame Red Dragon, which is coming out soon, and you can see here that I'm actually in the closed beta of Wargame Red Dragon, which is essentially the third game in the series, and this is the closed beta, so it's only under invitation that you can have access to that. So there's no NDA, which is why I'm able to show you this game, and I guess what I'll start doing is mostly show you what's different from Wargame Maryland Battle. And one thing is that, first of all, you can go into the armory. The armory design did change a little since the beginning. Since Wargame Maryland Battle. So you have about 1,457 units now in the game, and that is quite a bit. And that does mean you have a lot of choice. Now, as you can see, this is a beta, it's work in progress, so that's why some unit, for example here, you can see that it is a work in progress, so there's no texture for that unit yet. It's the case for a couple of units, but most of them have an image. You can see that there's quite a few factions in this game, and yeah, actually, I think there's one which is missing from that list. It's probably all the way to the right. There's also different, I guess, coalition. So, for example, here you have Blue 4, here you have Red 4. So this is NATO and this is the Pact. Here you have Eurocorps, which is French and German together. There's Scandinavia, which is the Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish together. The Commonwealth, which is the UK, Canada, and Australia. You have the Blue Dragon, which is Japan and Korea, or South Korea, I should say. Then you have the Eastern Bloc, which is Polish, Czechoslovakia, East Germany. And then you have Red Dragon, which is China and Korea. So the coalition essentially work as a kind of regroupment of factions, and if you create a deck which is a coalition, you'll have access to the prototype of those factions. So it's like a smaller group of faction which are usually they are pretty similar. They share many units together, so they are well integrated, and as a result of this you have access to the prototype while having a larger diversity of units, unlike if you were to restrict yourself to a single faction. So there's also rules which allows you to restrict to coalition or no coalition when you host a server. So that does play a new role, and this is interesting also. Then you have the different nation. The new ones, they are Australia, Japan, South Korea, North Korea, and China. So these bring a lot of new units. And then you have the previous one, which have a few more units from Maryland Battle, from the one that were in Maryland Battle. But generally speaking, they are pretty much the same. This game come with new units that complete and actually make. They had units which are up to, I think, 1993. So this is there was some major change happening in post 1990. So you have the introduction of better tank and better technology. So that's a couple of new units which are much stronger, and I will present a good portion of this now. I'll just do a small something first, just a moment. Oh yeah, by the way, confirm to me that everything is going well in the live stream. So let's do this. So here you have the logistic. As you can see, there's a couple of images which are missing. These are actually that's the new stuff. Now you have infantry, which are command units. So they're no longer a command vehicle; they're an infantry. And what you can do with this is be a little more stealthy about capturing zone. So you'll put them into the forest or buildings, and this way they will be a little more stealthy than if you had to bring a command vehicle. This can also be useful for, let's say, capturing an island which has a forest, so you'll be able to hide from the enemy ships and hold the zone without necessarily exposing yourself with a big ship, which is a command vehicle. I'm referring to the ship. You'll see that later in this video, I guess. But for now, let's stick with everything one after the other. So now you have every faction as infantry command, which can be practical. I guess now there's also, of course, the new units from the Korean, for example, here. You have you now have an Abrams, which is command vehicle. Very nice. You have also command vehicle, which I guess this one is probably amphibious. So you have a lot of new command vehicle. Some Australian Leopard tank. Japanese command vehicle tank. And of course some lighter one. Here you have a new kind of support for, that's the Marine here. So essentially, as you can see, not that much new stuff on the logistical aspect of things. And this is for NATO, essentially, what I'm showing right now. I restricted that to that. So it worked the same as in airland battle. If the innovation here is the infantry. Other than that, it is very similar. A few new capacity, for example, the Canadian now have access to those better transport, I suppose. They are a little faster, I guess. And they carry a lot more supplies. When it comes to infantry, many new units on Japanese side, I guess, Australian, and Korean. And that will allow you to learn plenty of new names, and that will be very hard for me to tell you what I'm using right now. But you can see that they have a different appearance, and what's interesting about those factions is that they are actually using a lot of hardware that other factions are already using, but they just customize them to their needs. So you end up having interesting variation of stuff you might recognize. Now the Canadian here now have the airborne unit, and also one aspect here, you can see that there's actually two lines of Canadian airborne. That's because now there's a kind of separation between two era. So you can have Canadian, well, some units which are post that, 1985, for example, here, or prior to 1985, I suppose. So there's a difference between their loadout, even though it's the same unit. But I guess when you do restriction for time frame, you'll end up having one unit over the other available. Also, the price sometimes varies. For example, here Canadian rifle, the version which is 1985 costs less. So the Canadian rifle later costs more. So there's variation in hardware that the units are using. So the game allows you to specialize your deck, and you will end up having the appropriate loadout for your troops. Here you have for the French, Commando de Marine, Commando de Marine. The Australian troops, some diggers infantry. I'm not sure That seem to be the same unit but different era. They even have a different look. They have a different transport, of course, as I did show previously. For the Canadian, one of the new transport is the Bison. But globally, the infantry is very similar, unchanged from the one in Wargame Ireland Battle. Other than having 2 era, of course. That's the innovation there. There's a couple of new weapons also, but I guess this is the kind of detail that it won't do that much different overall. But I guess the rule remained the same when it comes to that. Actually, there's one aspect which I'll show you when we create a deck. Okay, artillery. There's a couple of artillery. You see here with the Japanese, they have that MLRS. You have some standard artillery piece. Couple of mortar. The French have this new piece of artillery. And what is this? That's an anti-air infrared for the French. That's new. Roland tree for the German, that's new as well. And they have that new Roland 2, which is also for the German. The British now have that new artillery piece. This is a piece from 1993. MLRS for the Korean. Here the British also have this new anti-air. It's actually a tank. Well, it's a Challenger tank with an anti-air weapon on top. So this thing might be very powerful during the battles. You also have a version with the Chieftain, which is an interesting variation as well. Probably more limited in terms of range. Yeah, it's 50 kilometer less, and the speed is much slower. So it's a kind of tank base with an anti-air. Okay, so that's a mortar for the South Korean, some Hawk launcher, but as you can see here, the missiles are missing. Some South Korean artillery. So you can see here that the South Korean, they have proper anti-air gun loaded on some kind of APC base. The West German have MLRS now. It's an interesting addition. Now the rest here seems similar. Australian have some mortar, pretty standard. There's this new version of the Chaparral. It's a Chaparral M48A3. So what is different? Okay, okay. The range against chopper is much longer. It's 3.3 kilometer, while before, or actually not necessarily before, because the stats might have changed a little when it comes to comparing Airland Battle to Red Dragon. But now the version which is A3 has a much longer range against chopper, while the other one has 2.9 and the other one has 2.6 kilometer against chopper. So chopper will remain a good weapon against chopper, and this one is just a better version. Here you have a new Hawk. What's the difference? This one has a little more range against the planes and much more range against the choppers. So this Hawk is now much more effective against chopper. Actually, no chopper will get anywhere near that Hawk, apparently. And the Korean, they seem to have the same version. No, it's a little less good. Yeah, it's not as good. So new artillery, I don't remember that icon from this artillery. Well, here, this is an anti-air for the British. It's new stuff. What is this? It has seemed to be a very effective anti-air against. Oh, that's even an anti-ground thing. So look at this. It's a Stormer HMV. So this thing, well, let's say here, work in progress. Yep. But this thing seemed to be very similar to an ADAT system. It has a range of 2.8 against the ground, 2.9 against chopper, and 2.2 against airplane. Now the accuracy before it was identified as a number. Now they changed that toward accuracy, which is I mean, it's a percentage. So now it tells you that with the kind of accuracy this thing has, it's 55% effective, I guess. Then AP power 12. So if you hit the target with this, I guess you can kill most medium tank pretty easily. Heavy tank might take a few more hit though. But I guess this is a pretty powerful unit right here. The only downside to it is that it barely have any front armor. But the autonomy is pretty good, and I guess speed is very good as well. 80 km an hour, that's much better than most effective anti-air. But I guess artillery can easily destroy this with that little armor. Now here you have same track rapier. The Australian have the same technology as the British. That's probably why they are all in the Commonwealth. You know, they have very similar as weaponry. Here you have a Japanese anti-air. This one is interesting because it has a good range. It's similar to Chaparral in terms of stats. It's infrared, so fire and forget, and it's good against chopper, 2.8 kilometer, and 2.2 against airplane. So it's very similar to a Chaparral. So that is pretty much it. Now, when it comes to the effectiveness of those artillery in the game in Red Dragon, right now I will say they still need to balance it out because the artillery is a little overpowered, especially MLRS. But I think this is a temporary thing. It's very likely that they will just balance it out much better over time. Anyway, I don't think the game will come out in the next month. I think it's probably planned for in 2 months perhaps. So there's still a lot of balancing to do right now. So now let's check the NATO tank stuff. So here the French, same thing as previously. Well, I guess I should probably go by faction. That might be a little less confusing. So here for the American, in terms of tanks, there's the M1A1 HA Abrams. This one is a much better tank actually if you compare it to the M1A1 which we had in Airland Battle. Let's see what's the difference. Okay, this one has more armor. That's the main difference. So same cannon, more armor. It's 20 front armor. Then you have the M1A2. This one has 22 armor and a better accuracy, more AP power. So these two tanks are new. You have the M60A1 era. So it's this tank right here. Let's see how similar it is to the previous one. Well, essentially it's a fairly reliable tank, I guess. It's okay, accuracy, stabilizer is acceptable, AP power, it's not it's 15, which is okay for medium when you fight medium tank. Okay, here you have another M1A1 HC Abram, but this one is for the Marines, so if you choose a Marine deck you will finally have some Abrams to help you out, while previously you only had M60, which were rarely up to the task of fighting T-80s. So that's what's new for the American tank. Now let's go into the British tank. The British tank now have access to Challenger 1 MK3. Challenger 2. And the rest is the same. There might be some change in the stats, but this is still subject to change in the future anyway. So the French now have the Leclerc tank, which you can see it's a very flat tank, and the accuracy on that thing is pretty good. 65% accuracy, stabilizer 65%. So this thing is really powerful on the moon, not on the moon, but on the move. And I guess the front armor 21 is also very good. So the French used to be a faction which did not have much armor, and most of their tank were, well, the MX-40 was okay, but you know, 12 armor. Well, when you compare this with the Leclerc with 21, it's a very different thing. So now the French have a good front main battle tank. Now let's go to the West Germany. West Germany now have access to Leopard 2A5. As you can see, the shape of the front of the tank is different. And the stats, much more accuracy. 24 AP power, that's very strong. Because, you know, the front armor of this Leopard is 22, so if you have an AP power of 24, well, you probably kill the tank in one shot. Then you have Canada tanks. They have this Centurion now, which look like a harpoon, essentially. It seems very similar in characteristic. It's just very limited in range autonomy. So this is a new tank for Canada. You also have this Leopard C2 and the Leopard C2 Mexas. So that's two new tanks which are okay. They have 14 front armor. The range of the cannons are pretty good. Accuracy is certainly not as good as the previous new tank we saw in the other factions, but I guess for Canada it's a good improvement. Okay, Danish, no new tank there. Swedish don't have any new tank either. Norway doesn't have any improvement for tanks. Australia, let's see, they have Centurion MK5, Leopard ASI, or 1, yeah, that's a 1. So they have some Leopards. I guess they are okay tank, medium tank. Then they have this M41A1, which is 10 points, so this is a very cheap tank. And as you can see, the AP power is just 8, so that's very limited. Then they have the Scorpion tank, same thing as the British, essentially here. They have two versions of it though, and this one has a cannon of 90mm. So out of an AP power, rate of fire 7. So while this one, let's see what's the difference. Okay, well this one has a much better accuracy. So that's the main difference, and a little more AP power. But these are mostly very small and mobile units. Okay, now Japan. What kind of troops they have? They seem to have the Kyomaru Shiki, which is that look like a Leopard tank. I'm not sure if they have any relation, but it really does look like a Leopard tank. And this thing has a very good accuracy, very good stabilizer, 10 rounds a minute, which is pretty good. AP power of 22, and front armor of 20. So this is very similar to a Leopard tank, and it's as effective as one. So then they have the same thing as the Australian have, and this is an M41A1. So this is a very cheap tank. I guess you can compare that to a T-34. Then here you have another class of tank, a Nana Yon Shiki A. So you have a different variation of it. This is probably their medium tank. What might be interesting here is that in the last version they have a grenade launcher, which can be actually very useful to clear the the wood. And here you have this thing which looked like a Sherman tank. Well, an evolved one, I guess. And it's also pretty cheap. 8 AP power. Let's compare. Yeah, okay. Well, that's pretty bad. But I guess if you want to spam a lot of unit, that can be the right tool for that. Okay, South Korea. South Korea are actually interesting because they have those tanks which are pretty good. 17 front armor and good range, good accuracy, good stabilizer. The other version is even better. Then they have that terrible tank here, which is not that terrible, I guess, but it's not really good. And doesn't have much range, but it's similar to the tank which were already in the game. Okay, now let's go into recon stuff. American. So the American now have access to Cobra Recon, which have rocket. That's pretty good. They also have access to an Apache. Wow, this thing is deadly. Yeah, it costs you 150, but this thing has 16 Hellfire missile, which are fire and forget. And this is a recon. So yeah, this thing is oh, it's even 1995. So that means the game goes all the way to 1995. But this thing really seems OP by all means. So this is a recon, and 16 rounds of Hellfire, that's a lot. If you see this, you send your entire Air Force against this. There's also a new Bradley, a CFV. What's the difference? This thing has 12 tow missile, and the tow missile have 5 more points of AP power, so 25. So that's an interesting innovation. Then you have this new tank here, similar to the other one. What's the difference? Oh, it has Browning, or what is it? Okay, this one is the version with missile, while that other one, which was already in airline battle and no longer have a missile. That seemed to be the difference. They now have Navy SEALs, and they also have this new transport chopper. And that seemed to be it for the American Recon. The British, what's new with them? There seem to be that new units here, the SBS. So that seemed to be a light recon units. You also have that vehicle right here. What is this? A ferret. This thing has missile, so that's interesting. While the other version here has an autocannon. So that means with this small recon here, you can probably ambush the enemy and fire 6 missile. And the missile actually does 22. So this thing is actually a very deadly force. And it's really small, which means that it's hard to... Well, it's not that small, but it's medium. So that means this thing can be very dangerous. Now let's move to the French. What's new with them? Okay, here. Mistral. These are recon, so they are recon anti-air unit. There's a version with the machine gun. And then there's this thing. What is this? That seems to be a VAB with some recon capacity and a machine gun. The German, what's up with them? They seem to have this Tiger now. This Tiger chopper has 4 anti-air. That's pretty good. They have rockets, and there's a missing image, and they have some anti-tank missiles here. 25. That's really powerful. So these recon are really deadly. It seems that they really did change the recon to be much more deadly, because with the Apache with 16 Hellfire, and now this Tiger, and these are recon, which means they are very effective at spotting enemies. That means that these units are really deadly. You don't want them against you. Now they also received this small vehicle that's new. This used to be a vehicle for the British, I think. Okay, Canadian Recon. Now they have Ricky. And they also have this small scout here. Now the Ricky here is probably the new interesting unit because they have a sniper, which give Canadian the capacity to shoot their enemies with a sniper at the long range, 1.5 kilometer. So I guess this unit will be very useful to support your infantry advance through town and that kind of stuff. They also have the Coyote, which has a Bushmaster, so this is very similar to the LAV 25. So that brings that kind of capacity. They have the Cougar, which was already there, and the rest is the same as previously. Danish, nothing new with them apparently. Well, maybe I don't remember if this was a recon, but yeah. Swedish don't have anything new. The Scandinavian did not seem to receive that much love in this new edition. But here the Norwegian actually have this recon vehicle, which is literally an M8 from World War II. That's an interesting addition. Okay, now let's get with the Australian. The Australian have a lot of new stuff. So they have a Squirrel, A22 Squirrel. You can see that this is a recon chopper, very good optic. Pretty good speed, 290 km. They also have the AS LAV 25, so this is a LAV 25. We're already familiar with that. They have a Bison. What's interesting about those Bison here is that they have an exceptional optic, and it's probably because of the small radar here. Now you have the Bell 206. An LRPV roller. Seems to be a very fast-moving recon with grenade launcher. Okay, well the first version has 2 machine gun while the other one has a grenade launcher, so that can be useful to support an infantry attack. Then they have this thing, which is okay, it's essentially an APC with a gun on top. Same here, machine guns. They have Nord Force, which can be transported in this, and a UE, and S-70, which is a Black Hawk, and a Bison, I suppose. Now these don't have a card yet. Some chopper, some Black Hawk. Oh, this is pretty light infantry. Now they have that rover here and the Ferret. Ferret has machine gun. Let's see Japan. Now Japan, they have those Rangers here. It's either a Humvee or a UE as transport. They have that Jeep here, and this vehicle here, Hachi Nana Shiki, which has an autocannon of 25mm, 2 AP power, 136 rounds a minute. This thing can be pretty good against light vehicle, I suppose. And they have this thing, and they have the Ninja. Now the Ninja is actually an interesting unit because this thing has 4 anti-air missile, and this is a recon, so that means it's actually practical to use them to support your ships. It's also useful for scouting, of course, since this is a recon, but to intercept the enemy chopper, that can be good at the beginning. And what's sad is you only have 4 anti-air, but that's fine. Okay, the Korean, what's up with them? So they have that Jeep with machine guns, they have this slightly armored vehicle for recon, and this one has a grenade launcher. Then they have this thing, which is very weird looking if you ask me. Big cannon, 11 AP power, 90mm round, good range, 7 rounds a minute, not much armor though. But that can be an interesting recon, I suppose. OH-6 mobile chopper here. No, these are really basic recon. They only have some light anti-tank. They can be carried in UE and Blackhawk and that thing right here. You have those other a little heavier recon. I guess these can be compared to well, these are the elite of the recon. They have good anti-tank, good at short range, and good in close quarter combat. So for urban environment, they are probably the tool. They can also move very fast, so that's your effective recon. Okay, now let's check the vehicle. Now, vehicle is mostly where you find all the missile stuff. And this is also usually the transport for the infantry. So here you have a lab which has missile. And you have your standard marine stuff here with grenade launcher. These were, well, these here were already in airland battle. Then, well, for the... You have Bradleys, which are used for transporting infantry, 3 versions of them. And this one is the new one, essentially. Okay, a Comvat, what is that? It's a prototype. 45mm rounds. Range 1.9, 1.5 here. Accuracy 35, AP power 4, which make them okay. Doesn't seem to have a missile or anything, but this is a prototype. I guess 2 armor here. Well, this is like a proper autocannon vehicle. And here the rest is the same. Let's see, for the British vehicle. This is definitely an amphibious vehicle here. Buffalo 1V only has machine gun. So this is a troop transport, essentially. Okay, the rest is the same. You have a warrior tank here, a better version. It has a little more armor than the previous warrior. As for the rest, I guess you have those transport, but nothing particularly groundbreaking. Okay, French vehicle. You have this AMX-13 VTT. I guess that's a troop transport. And they have this new Milan launcher, Milan F2 launcher, I should specify, this is important. So the AP power is 24, which make them very powerful. This is potentially a unit that will be very useful. That's it for the new vehicle for the French. The West Germans seem to have received a few things, so they have those Milan F1 and F2 versions, so seem not as good as the French one, but seem good nonetheless. And the rest is the same as in airland battle. Canadian now have what Camera was already in there. They have the Bison, and this thing has what's strange is that this thing has less autonomy than a Grizzly, and it costs more. So what's the point? Oh yeah, a little more armor, but I will say the Grizzly still seem to be a better choice. Then you have the version with the missiles. So 25 AP power, that's pretty good. And this is a prototype, so important detail. Then you have this Iltis TOW 2. What's strange about this is that they cost the same as the TOW version here, but the main difference is mostly the speed and range. This thing goes much faster, and the autonomy is not as good, but I guess speed sometimes is important. Then you have this transport here. This goes with the Canadian paratrooper. So this has an autocannon, so that's a proper infantry support vehicle. Danish, let's see what's new with them. Nothing. There's no new vehicle, so same stuff as air and battle. Same thing with the Swedish. Here, Norwegian don't have any new vehicle. The Australian have that LAV 25. Also have another LAV 25 which has a tow launcher. This is an interesting change because it has speed, it's amphibious, and actually here you can see that there's a new data. It's 45 kilometer in amphibious, so that means you can cross river with that. So that's an interesting change, and since this thing has a tow launcher, it gives Australian a good flexibility to go across river and act as a Bradley essentially. But with a Bushmaster, it doesn't have as much armor, but this is a capacity which can be very interesting. Then you have the AS-LAV PC, which is a troop transport. Here, an interesting unit. This is a tiny vehicle, and it goes pretty fast. Okay, autonomy. But what's interesting about it is not so much the machine gun here, as the fact that it has 6 missiles, so with 20 AP power. So that means you can use that and hide them in the wood, fire your missile, and go away quickly because this is a rather small target. So you might have a few good hits with that. Here they have a Rover Milan. Couple of vehicle with the recoilless rifle. Some customized APCs. Here you have one with a minigun, which means it can fire at choppers. I'm not sure if that's a troop transport, but it's amphibious. Here you have one with cannon, so it's another APC which has a cannon. I don't know if it can transport stuff yet, though. Okay, Japan. So Japan, they have Humvees, troop transport, those things here. Oh, that seems a mean thing. Achi Kiyoshiki. So this thing seems very similar to Bradley in role, at least. And actually, what? Okay. So this thing has a cannon, 25 millimeter, and it has 2 missiles. So that means it has the capacity to potentially destroy enemy vehicle or tank. Well, here 3 AP power. Front armor of 4, which make it able to perhaps survive a little. So this is actually a very good troop transport. Or vehicle. Here you have a standard Jeep with different type of missiles, at different price of course. Now this version here at 15 points, this thing has a 2.6 kilometer range. Well, here you have 2.4 kilometer range, but you have 21 AP power, which is an interesting variation. And you have this vehicle here with recoilless rifle, 2 of them. Good rate of fire, 1.7 kilometer range is actually pretty good. No, it's okay, it's standard. But yeah, I guess you can ambush the enemy with that. South Korea now. So they have tow launcher here, tow launcher here. They have this troop transport or vehicle, I'm not sure. They have one version with what appears to be a kind of Bushmaster. And the other version has a grenade launcher. So you have a choice for both. And here you have that other transport, K200. It has a little more armor, but not much difference from the other transport here. Here, this is a flamethrower tank, so the KM-132. This here is pretty much their standard transport. They have this marine unit here for landing, an amphibious attack. Some recoilless APC and some tow here. M18, this is a World War II tank. And you can see that it has 6 AP power, which is pretty weak. I think this is called an Hellcat usually. And here you have another... No, actually that's the Hellcat. Another anti-tank tank or tank hunter. World War II stuff. 2 armor. Well, here you have World War II anti-air truck. So with quad M2 Browning, it's only good against chopper. Now we're into helicopter. Now let's see what's new with the American. They now have access to Little Bird with grenade launcher. They have the CH-46 Prog. That's a new plane chopper. Of Chinook. You have the MH-60. This thing has Hellfire, twin minigun, twin... what is this? Autocannon. Oh, this thing seems very deadly. Look at that. Then you have the rest is pretty much the same. But I guess the new highlight of this these chopper is really that Blackhawk. Very dangerous stuff. Let's go with the British. Now you have this chopper here, which is new. This is a Lynx 3 with Hellfire and Stinger. So this chopper has anti-air and anti-ground capacity. Very strong unit. And this here seems to be a Puma. I think it's for the transport of some specific unit of infantry. What's new with the French? The French have this chopper here, which fire rockets, 35 rockets. So yeah, I guess for suppressing infantry, that's okay. Then they have a new version of Hut or Gazelle that fire Hut missile, Hut 2. So 25 AP power. That means it pretty much kill any tank. Then they have the Tigre. And 2 versions of it. One version have anti-air missile, the other one has anti-ground missile, Hut 2 missile, plus a cannon in both cases. So you have 2 variations of the chopper, which means that you can make a good combo where the chopper will be safe. Okay, the German, what's new with them? So you have this new BO 105P, which has some anti-air capacity. That seemed to be hit. The other one are the same. Same as Airland Battle. Canadian now have attack choppers, so you have those gunship here with minigun and rockets. This one has 28 rockets. As you can see, you have the sign of Japan here. So I don't know if this is something which will change. I find very unlikely that we'll keep a chopper, the Canadian Army, with the Japanese symbol. But as I said previously, this is a beta and it's work in progress. So you'll be nothing is final. There's a few bugs and things which will be corrected. Here we have a CH-118 SS-11. So that seems to be a Lynx with some SS-11 missiles. Now when we go into the Danish, they seem to have one Lynx as a transport probably. Swedish, same as in Airland Battle. Norwegian, same as Airland Battle. The Australian, they have a Bush Ranger, which seemed to be a UE with rockets. They have the Chinook, they have the UE here, transport. But they don't seem to have any attack chopper, other than the Bush Ranger perhaps. Japanese, so they're using their own version of the Cobra. They are using this small chopper with tow launcher, and the UE as a transport. South Korean are using the Cobra version, which only has rockets, and a Cobra with tow launcher. Then you have another version of the Cobra with tow launcher, but what's the difference? Okay, this version has better tow launcher. So the AH-1T has the best tow missile, which do 25 AP power. That's pretty strong. While the other one costs 10 less points, but has 20 AP power, which is okay. Then here you have these, which cost much less, but they don't have guns or rockets, but they have tow missile, which do 20 AP power. Then for troop transport, they're using UE and Blackhawk. Air units. Let's go into the American again. See what's new over there. Okay, so the only new unit, air unit for the American is the F-16C Block 50-52. So this is an air-to-air F-16, which is actually a good addition because the F-16 is usually used as an interceptor, and they did not have any F-16 for the American that were only dedicated to air interception. So this thing has AIM-9M, which is a very good missile, and AIM 120A MRAM. So this is another good missile, I think. Oh, this one is defined as being fire and forget. So this plane here will be a very good dogfighter. Air detection is excellent, strength 10, ECM 40%. Now let's compare this with the Eagle. Actually, I could use that. There's this new function which allows you to compare two units. So you can see here the difference. Okay, well, in terms of loadout, they are really similar. Price is different. So what's the big deal? The F-15 will last longer over the area, while the F-16 will only last so long. The F-15C have much more fuel capacity. But for the rest, the stats are very similar. So I guess if you know that you will be in the short engagement, the F-16C will probably be your best choice. While if you're more into long-range patrol, the F-15 will be more of an appropriate choice for the situation. So this is actually a very interesting new unit for people which are specialized in air-to-air stuff. Okay, so the British, what's new with them? You have the Eurofighter Typhoon, and this thing is actually very good. In terms of loadout, it's similar to the two planes, the F-16C and F-15C. So it's very similar. I guess it's closer to the F-15C because it seems that this thing can last longer over the target. So that's a good thing, but the loadout is similar, and I use them, and they are pretty good. Then you have this new Harrier. What's special about it? Well, I think it's not so much a new Harrier as it is a new image for the Harrier. So this simply has some Maverick missile. That's the innovation. While here, that's a new one. You have a Harrier now which has seed capacity, which can be actually very interesting because the seed capacity of the Harrier, it can fire at a range of 4.9 kilometer, and since the Harrier is a rather slow plane, it can turn quite a bit, which means that this plane may actually be a very good a good seed plane because it can turn and stay potentially out of range of the enemy AA. So that's a really interesting capacity for the British. And then you have this tornado seems to have a new image, but I don't think it's any different. Also, some plane they are still there, but their loadout did change a little. But I did not scan them all so far, so we'll see. The French, they have their Rafale, so new fighter. They also have this Mirage F1 CT, which has cluster bomb. I don't, yeah. Yeah, okay, this one was introduced lately, I think, in Airland Battle, but this is a new image for it. So the French have two new planes. East German, they have the Tornado ECR, which has seed capacity. So this is an anti-radar. They also have this F4F Peace Rhine. So this thing has Maverick missile. So essentially what they seem to be doing is really adding capacity to some factions, capacity that were missing in the Airland Battle. Canada has this Voodoo plane, so it's infrared missile, so it's air-to-air. So this is probably a plane which will be effective at intercepting choppers. And the speed is not that high, which make it probably ideal for that. Starfighter has the same loadout. Here the Freedom Fighter, which in the latest version of Airland Battle used to have a lot of Sidewinder missile, now has bombs. Normal bombs, so pretty big bombs, by the way. The bombs seem bigger than the plane, nearly. But this is how it is right now. We'll see. So this thing will be good for bombarding infantry. Then you have the Hornet, that's the same as previously, same with this one. And you have this other plane right here, which is an EF-101B Electric Voodoo. So this is a seed plane, so the Canadian have the capacity to destroy radars. Now the Danish don't have any new planes. Swedish don't have anything new. Norwegian don't have anything new there. Now let's see the Australian. So Australian now have the Skyhawk with Maverick, one Maverick, and actually 4 infrared missiles. So the Skyhawk become for the Australian a particularly good interceptor for choppers, for example. And on top of that, it can even shoot vehicles. So that's an interesting little plane. And this one is similar, but the Maverick it has is fire and forget, so it costs 100 points. I guess when you use these two Skyhawk, the big question is it a good trade-off? Because you only have one missile for the enemy vehicles, and they cost a lot more than their American counterpart Skyhawk, which have only rockets, sure, but still, this is pretty expensive. Then they have the Strike Master, Napalm. Here they have the MB339 CB with napalms, so 2 units with napalms. Now keep in mind that everything is subject to change in this, so the loadout that we see right now might not be the final one, so just keep that in mind. Here you have the Aardvark, essentially Australian version with 8 1,000 kilo bomb. This is insane, if you ask me, because when you see this fly by and drop their bombs, everything under die. That's pretty much it. This is a really strong unit. Then you have the Phantom 2. This is an interceptor, a Sparrow missile. They have the Hornet with 4 500k bombs. Here you have a Mirage with more bombs, normal bombs. And you have another Mirage which has a Sidewinder. This one is probably the one that will be dedicated at intercepting choppers, because it only has bombs. But of course, once again, they might add some weaponry later on to this. Okay, the Japanese, they have this plane which has bombs which are actually laser guided. So that's an interesting thing. Sadly, they don't kill the tank that well, but at least they are laser guided, so they will hit the target. So this is an interesting bomber. Here they have this fighter here, F104G Ryu. This is a good proper plane to intercept choppers. Then they have the F-15G, so similar to the American one. They have the F-4EG Kai, which has 8 bomb of 340 kilogram. So this can be an interesting plane to carpet bomb an area. Then they have this Saber here, which is not called a Saber, but it's an F-86F Kyoko. So this thing dropped napalms. It also has a couple of machine gun here. The Korean Air Force. They have this thing, which is actually really interesting, an A-37B. It drops cluster bomb and normal bombs. So this is actually a plane that is an interesting mix, because you know that everything below it will be destroyed, no matter if it's infantry or tank. So this is an interesting plane. Never saw that before, but the loadout is interesting. Then they have F-16 with 6 AIM-9 missiles. So this is an F-16 that is specialized, let's say, against chopper. They have the other F-16, which is it has AIM-120A AMRAAM fire and forget missile. So this plane is a very good interceptor against plane, but it's worthless against chopper. So this is an interesting unit because it's very specialized in its use against plane. Perfect interceptor. Then they have F-40S. No, actually it's F-4DS with 18 bomb. So good plane to carpet bomb an entire place. They have another version with Maverick missile, 3 of them, which will require you to keep track of the target, so you need to be very specific in your targeting. Here, napalm for that one, and here you have this version, which will be good against chopper as well. An F5, essentially. They also have that Saber with rockets. That really reminds us of Korean War. And they have this KF-16, which has some seed weapon, which don't appear right now. But this will be a plane which has some anti-radar capacity. Also, currently, it has some air-to-air missiles. So this is actually a very interesting plane, because when you fly them above the enemy territory, it will fire against radar, and it will also be able to fire effectively against enemy planes. So this is an interesting setup. Might be subject to change once again, but interesting unit here. Okay, now we're into the marine category, and this currently this is not restricted to the Marines, but this is reinforcements which will be able to come from the sea. So here you have command infantry. Essentially, I guess it's the same units as the previous category. The difference is that it's reinforcements that comes only from the sea. And this category main interest here is the ships. So you can now see the ships. This is a Baiku, and this here you have 3 different capacity for this specific ship. You have its defense system, which will intercept enemy incoming missile. So this thing is very good at shooting whatever comes toward it or fly nearby. Then this thing has 6 radar missile, which are also for defensive purpose. So it will fire at choppers and airplane. The cannon here also can fire against ground units and other ship. Now this is a pretty small ship, so normally it won't last long, and it also has some M2 Browning, which can fire against ground unit and chopper. What's important to notice here is that it's sailing for coastal. There's 3 different type of ship. There's coastal, deep water, and I think it might be a river, or anyway, make that 2, let's say. So that's one type. The other type here, what's different about it is that this one doesn't have missiles. It has only, let's say, defensive weaponry against planes and limited capacity against land unit and other ship. These are really the kind of fast-moving ships that you use to harass the enemy. Then here you're starting to have a little bigger ship, a Dong Hai. So this has a big cannon, of course, a couple of anti-air defense, some Bofar, so anti-air stuff as well, but it can fire at ground units. So essentially you have 2 cannons which can suppress enemy target, whether it is infantry, air, or whatever. The maximum range of all those cannons is 2.8 kilometer. But the rate of fire, look at that, it's 31 rounds a minute here for that big gun, and 400 rounds a minute for this gun right here. And the Bofar is 60 rounds a minute. So this is a kind of a ship that you'll use probably to protect bigger ship against incoming enemy attack. The strength here is 120, and the armor is 2. So these ships are not super strong, but they can take a few hits. But this is mostly an escort ship. Then I'll skip the infantry and all that stuff that you can get from there, and I'll only cover the ships. So this is a Po Hang. Now this is a bigger ship, as you can see, bigger guns. So this has once again a cannon which can suppress infantry and tank and enemy ship, of course. Now what's important to notice about all those ships is that there's no AP power. So yes, you can ultimately kill enemy tank, but this is something which the ships are mostly good at suppressing and killing infantry, but for tank it take a few more rounds, let's say. Now they have harpoon missile, which have well, it's a missile which is specific to ships. Here you can see that it's restricted to targeting ships. It has 4 of them, which is not that many. And yeah, it has a range of 8.7 kilometers. So ship battle in this game is very long range matter. Also, it's a matter of overwhelming the enemy defense, because look at this here. This thing has a rate of fire of 1,956 rounds a minute. So this thing is a weapon which will fire at anything which is coming their way. So planes, missile. It will try to intercept the enemy missile. So this ship is actually very good at shutting down an incoming missile. And you'll see later in this video, when we get there, that the sea battle are pretty good looking. There's some tweaking to do, but the potential is there. Okay, so that's the unit. Actually here, what I will do is I will go for complete NATO stuff, because right now I was only restricted to Korea. So you have this ship which I already covered. No, I did not actually. This one has a cannon, Browning machine gun, and mortar. So this is a ship which you can use to suppress the enemy position. So it's a mobile artillery essentially. Here the Atsuyuki. What is this? Okay, this thing has 8 harpoon missile. That's the main difference. And the defense system is made of missiles, which have a range against airplane of 4.9 kilometer, but against chopper it's more limited. So that means this ship is vulnerable to enemy chopper attack. And as you can see, it's sailing for deep sea. So this is a ship which you cannot use in river, for example. And this thing costs you 200 points at the moment, but I find very unlikely that this will remain based on the feedback on the beta. It's very likely that those prices will change, or I hope so. Here you have a Congo, which seems to be the most expensive ship there is for NATO. And this thing has cannons, of course, 127 millimeter rounds, 400 range to ground 6 kilometer, so you can fire at stuff on the ground pretty far. Range against chopper 2.8 against airplane. So those cannons can actually shoot down planes. It's unlikely, but possible. Then they have 8 harpoon of a range of 8.7. That's usually the range for the harpoon, no matter the ship. And as for anti-air defense, they have those Vulcan cannon there, and SM2MR Block 2. So this thing has a range of 5.2 kilometer against planes. So these ships are really hard to attack with planes. Okay, Lafayette. So this ship has a good range for the cannon and similar capacity. Not as expensive. I guess the main difference is the strength. If you look at it, strength of the Congo class is 250, while Lafayette is 100 point of strength. So these can take much less punishment. Now this is a frigate. This one has anti-ship stuff, anti-air missiles, some vehicular defense. So this is a good ship against air units. Okay, that's a ship from previously. This one has anti-air, yeah. But this one can go into a river, so you can actually deploy those small ships around the rivers and potentially suppress the enemy. Okay, we already did cover that one. Same with this one. Here you have a boat, which is this is an artillery, or actually, yeah, this is an artillery ship. That can be interesting in some contexts. As you can see, there's a lot of ships, a lot of stuff. Now this is an interesting ship. This one is really fast, 32 knot. And this has a cannon, harpoon, but it doesn't have any anti-air protection. So this is a ship which you will use to go in, strike, and then pull back. Then you have this ship. This one we did cover. Oh, this one here, that's for the river, once again. Small ship. This one has a Hellfire missile, which can be very good against tanks. So that means that from the river you'll be able to suppress very effectively the enemy. And it also has a grenade launcher, a machine gun. So this is a ship which can be very effective at harassing the enemy. But it only has 10 strength, so it can be destroyed very easily as well. So this is a tricky unit to use. And here you have a flamethrower ship. So this one, you can probably use that to suppress the enemy. It has an autocannon, and you can make a wall of fire if you want with it. That's assuming you actually reach the target at all, because now that I did present the ships, I will show you the planes which can destroy ships in this. Because this is all stuff that you can bring from the sea. So you have a lot of units which are dedicated at destroying the ships as well. So for example, here you have the Starfighter. This one has anti-ship missile, 2 of them, and the range is 4.2 kilometer. Here you have an F-16, which has a range of 4.5 kilometer, so 2 missile, anti-ship. Here you have a Hornet, which has 4 anti-ship missiles, 5.2 kilometer here. Also, the ECM can be important because since the enemy ship are really strong in anti-air defense, this means that you can be suppressed and shot at by quite a few anti-air defense. So 4 missile. Here also 4 missiles. This one is more a specialized one. I'll just scroll all the way down. Oh yeah, I did skip this one. This is a logistic ship. I guess there's 2 essentially, one for NATO and one for the Pact. And these are not faction specific. Notice that the flag here is NATO flag. So look at that. It's NATO. It's not nation specific. So it's really something which is shared by the coalition essentially. I'm just searching. Okay, there we go. We have another Super Tendar. Oops, that's not what I want to do. Anyway, here you have Tornado, anti-ship weaponry. You have Super Tendar, which has only 1 missile. There's also choppers which have some anti-ship capacity. I'm trying to find them. There is just so many units in there. Ah, there we go. Now this is a Seahawk, and it has 2 anti-ship missile. I think they appear on the other side, right here, and with a range of 3.8 kilometer. Now, what's interesting about this is that actually all this is how you have many missiles which have a range superior to most ship anti-air capacity. Now, as a result of this, most of your plane are able to shoot their missile and bail out of the zone without the ships being able to shoot back at them, unless you have big ships. But the tricky thing here is that all those ships have anti-missile defense, so they are able to intercept the defense, and this is an important aspect that I will demonstrate. Actually, I haven't presented you anything for the Pact yet, but I think I'll go play now, because I'm sure you guys, while you appreciate all the presentation of all the units, which are new. I'm sure you're interested in perhaps seeing some of that in action. So I guess I'll present to you, well, perhaps, yeah, okay, let's first introduce you to shortly the deck creation parameter. So here I can create a deck, and you can choose both sides, of course. You can put a name. What's new is that in the bonus, you have the capacity to form a coalition. So as you can see here, you can choose a single faction, or you can choose a coalition. So for example, Eurocorps, that's France and Germany together. So what that allows you to do is, by restricting yourself to those two faction or three faction here, you have access to the prototype of all those factions. And what that allows you to do is essentially use those prototype. So that's a good thing. And but of course, server rule can prevent you from having that. So another thing which is important now is that when you specialize yourself, not only does it improve the capacity of your tank, for example, here in this case, but this also add 4 slots available to the specialization that you have. Otherwise, you're only able to have access to 5 units of the same type of unit. So if you're really if you really like tank, for example, you want to go armored, because then you'll be able to have a large diversity of tanks. While if you're not specialized in armored, then you do not have, you only have 5 position, 5 card for your tanks. So let me show that. Now you can see here I'm specialized armored in this. And what that means is that here I can unlock units all the way up there. So that is quite a few that can make a difference. And that also means that here, for example, because of that rule of having only 5 square open, you can no longer spam planes as much as before. The only way you can have a lot of plane now is by restricting yourself to marine, which limit your capacity in terms of planes. Also, one new thing in all this is that you can search units. But beyond that, what's interesting here is that, for example, here you have 2 numbers. You have the amount of infantry, but you also have the amount of transport. So, for example, here, if I had 1 unit of, well, let's say I had 2 units of ATGM Milan F1 with VAB transport. Now the VAB transport is at 0. Which means that I can no longer use any VAB transport. Here, for example, if I want the chasseur with VAB, well, I cannot, because I already spent all my VAB on using them with the ATGM Milan. So what's interesting about this is that you can no longer, for example, use a reservist to spam a specific transport. So now you have a limited amount of transport and limited amount of infantry. So you need to balance out and diversify the way of transportation you want to use. Because you can no longer say, well, I just want BMP 3 and I will crush everybody with that. You will have a limited amount of transport of that type, and I think this is a very good change, because this forced people to actually use the diversity of transport there is. Also, the other thing which you should probably notice is the fact that there's no longer any truck transport. You don't have access to that anymore. And this is also an interesting change, because what that means is that you can no longer, let's say, bring an enormous amount of reservists and truck transport and then just send the truck to waste all the enemy missile on them. So this is another change which is subtle but can have some impact and reduce that aspect of abusing the truck transport. So I think this is the main innovation. The other aspect here is also the marine aspect here. These don't cost you any activation points. So you have, for example, here I have 3 activation points out of 60. But if I had something here like a ship, that specific marine aspect costs you no activation points. So it did not go to 4 here. So this is, I guess, this is something you could qualify as being a mean of it's your coalition supporting you, so they are providing that assistance for free. So this is also an aspect, and you can see here, for example, you can bring these troops will come from the sea, so you can complete your deck with additional reinforcements which you can bring from the sea, and you also all the anti-ship weaponry in terms of planes. So for example, here I can bring planes, and these will come from the sea because they come from a carrier or a task force which you cannot really see on the battlefield. So this is essentially where you bring all the stuff from the sea, and this act like it's not part of your deck, it's part of a NATO support of your cause, for example. So this is some of the variation of the deck creation, which I find are pretty fundamental because this increases the complexity of adjusting your deck to really what you like. Well, it doesn't add to the complexity, but it does allow you a new freedom and new constraint in what you want to do. So now let's give it a try. Okay, so you can have right now you can only host servers. There's no 10 versus 10 server. This is a very limited closed beta, so there's not that many people. It will be pretty hard to fill a 10 versus 10 server probably. But here what you can do is you can actually put some national constraints. So if you want, you can restrict this to nation or coalition. You can restrict this to nation, or you can restrict this to coalition. And this goes to the deck creation where you set a coalition. And what can be interesting is that you might want to play a round where there will not be any specific nation, or there will not be a mixed NATO deck, or that kind of stuff. So this is a constraint. Then you can also restrict to the team. So if you want to fight a war which is specialized toward armored, you can set it that everybody that comes on the server needs to be specialized in armored deck. So that can lead to pretty intense tank fight, for example. Then you have the date constraint. Now you seem to have only 2 here, so well, actually 3. You have no constraint, which allows you to have all the troops until 1995. And then you have 1980, before 1980, and before 1985. So if you want, you can set the server so that people will only be allowed to play a deck of that nature. So this can lead to interesting war. Okay, now now you can finally see the map. That's a good innovation. And now in this beta, there's 4 different maps. So you have this one here, which allows you to have a big ship battle over here. some land stuff here. Then you have a map which has a river here, then a couple of bridge. It's good for amphibious infantry, for example. It can be very intense, but no ship there. You have this desert map, which I haven't played much, so maybe we should try this one. And it's no sea unit there either, but it's a desert team essentially. And you have this really big map with two water area, so big ship battle, and the infantry and tank, well, all the land element end up fighting in the center, supported by their fleet. Kind of remind me of Supreme Commander map. Well, I guess I guess I'll try this one. Also, here you can set the starting points. I'll play Conquest. There's 3 modes: Destruction, Economy, and Conquest. I'll go with Conquest because it does force both sides to actually fight, while instead of just doing small move to have a few kills. And okay, Conquest points, I will put 800, and I'll put this 60 minute. Income rate, I will put it to very high. This set at which pace you will regain your money. I found that the default medium, which is 7 here, is too slow usually, so I'll go with very high. And now, while the server fill up, I think I'll just go get some water and we'll get into the action as soon as people join in. Okay, so while we're waiting for the last player to join up, I suppose I'll read some of the comment or question that I might have missed. So here we go. Now, there's a few issue of balancing. Hopefully these guys won't abuse that. For example, right now the MLRS are a little too overpowered, and the ship's defense are a little overpowered or too cheap. So we'll see how it goes in this specific battle. Hopefully this will be a good round. But worst case scenario, that will be horrible. But other than a few minor imbalance so far, this bit has been pretty cool. Okay, so let's as you can see here, we're really in Asia. The design of the house is very much Asia-like. Well, there's a few bugs, as you can see here. Sarvik said that his map was black, so that means texture were not loading for him or something. There's a few issues for a few people, but in my case I've been rather lucky so far. And right now I'm actually using the Japanese and Korean. And as you can see here for the infantry, there's a few icons missing. You can see here the size of the ships. He did bring three of them, three different ones, I think. And here he has a few infantry units, or perhaps entire units in transport. And right now we're playing Conquest, so that means that the objective is to hold the different towns, or zone actually, with a command vehicle to make points. So each zone will give you points in your score, and the team with the most points end up winning. As for the maps, I think they will be different because this is Red Dragon, so it focuses on Asia. And also, I think they also change a little the size ratio of things. So this is a little different. I'm not sure if it's a perception, but I think the ratio of everything has been changed a little. Yeah. I can bring one Japanese infantry unit. Now here on the left side there's something called unit view. Personally, I don't really like it. You can remove it by clicking F. I don't really think it adds much to the game. But at least it does allow you to see what you have selected. I just want to change one button. There we go. If you want to see the ship in action, there seems to be the sound missing. There's still a few sound which need to be added. Well, this one already did receive a few hits, and you can see how it is easy to spot those ships from afar. I'll bring some ninja to deal with those chopper over there. Now you can see one of those river boats getting owned by enemy choppers. I think this is the flamethrower version, yeah. So you can move those boats in the rivers. We'll bring a command vehicle over there. I can see the ship are actually shooting the incoming missiles. They are also deploying flares. So this can end up into a very intense long-range fight. No, let's see. This guy actually brought some command infantry. We'll try to destroy those MI too. As you can see, those F-16 are pretty fast. We'll call in an airstrike on those infantry. Also need some resupplying. Seems clear to me that the enemy over there are winning the Navy fight. Which will likely mean that they will win this. I think I'll try this Korean bomber. The flamethrower did increase its range, look at that. Actually, this vehicle here just went through the water. My tank here are out of fuel, which is a bit annoying. And now it's clear to me that I will need to bring some proper infantry in the area. Yeah, this guy seems to be doing a chopper rush. You can see that this F-16 did put some flare. So that's a new addition to the game. At least some visual for the flare. The flares. I'll bring some ninja chopper over here. Now, if we look at sea over there, it's clear that we're losing big time. I'll send my supply all the way back to base. That's a lot of stuff sneaking around. I noticed the command squad infantry there. I guess I will go help over here. Yeah, the round is already over. This is the rules only ask for 500. This is too little. Now let's see, what did what? As you can see, a lot of chopper were shut down. But yeah, that wasn't a particularly amazing round. Okay, let's try this out. Okay, I guess we'll try this server. My impression is that I'm stuck on join game room. I think what I'll do is I'll restart the game. There we go. As you can see, this game booted up very fast. This time we'll play the Pact, and we'll be probably, let's see, yeah, we'll be China for change. Now this map, if you look at it here, it has 2 sea zones. So as a result of this, what can be interesting about this is that you can end up having one fleet controlling one and the other controlling the other. Now, what I find from my experience in this new map here is that the land battle become less important as the focus of the fight goes towards sea battle, because if you control the sea, you can completely prevent the enemy from crossing the bridge which are over here. So this is a map which has a strong focus toward the air battle. Also, what's interesting about this map is that you start with only one zone, which is inland. So that means that at the beginning, it's whoever managed to rush to the zone where you can call in a navy that will likely have an advantage in deploying their troops. I think in this case, what I'll do is I'll go navy. But I have tank. Chinese tank. Right. Seems that the host has an issue with the texture not loading. I guess I'm probably responsible of the center, because my allies seem to be interested in this side. Okay, that will be weird. Yeah, I guess we will restart this because the host had a problem, and the other one left as well, so might as well restart this. Or I guess in this case, find another server. Okay, so there we go again. Oh great, crash. Now, as you can see, this is a beta, so there is many things which needs to be fixed. Now, hopefully, we'll get a game. The thing is that this closed beta, the main objective of it is to allow a couple of players to play the game, see the way it works, and see how they like it, and fix the main bugs, and get a couple of feedback from the community on what they like, what they don't like. So this is pretty much the focus of this beta. And it's very likely that the way it will work is that probably next month or the month after, you'll be able to pre-order the game, and you will likely be able to play the beta version, probably a better beta, when you pre-order the game and until the game comes out. So this is very likely the way it will work. Now, what is interesting is that now you can have actually a clue about what kind of enemy you're facing. So, for example, here we're facing two players which have a Commonwealth deck. Well, this one here, he has a USA deck. Here we have mixed pact, I mean. And here we have a USSR, and you have me, which has a Chinese deck. Also, you can see specialization. Nobody has any specialization right now. And you can see the era stuff. In terms of stats here, for now, it's pretty much the same as it was in Airland Battle. What can be interesting is that you will be able, for example, for the deck, you'll be able to copy your deck and well, actually export a deck and import a deck. And what will be interesting about that is that you'll be able to share your deck with your friends, and this will allow you to, if your deck is really good and your friend doesn't have a clue about how everything works, well, you just provide him the deck, and he will be able to have an effective deck right away. And also, this will allow me to make guides for the deck and just put you the link to that specific deck. And from there, you'll be able to simply try out this deck, adjust it to your liking after, and that will be interesting. Interesting, you can now mute players. Let's hope this time it works. Yeah, there we go. So I'm using the Chinese, which is actually a faction I did not show in the armory presentation. But what's interesting with the Chinese is that they have a very different type and style than other faction. So that's a welcome diversity. So it's plenty of unit, which I have no idea what they do. It seems that I'll be the one fighting for this region. So hopefully I can rely on allies which will be able to capture the sea stuff. Gregory, where is that? I'm under the impression that this round will be laggy. Because one of the blue 4 player has a really unstable ping. And that's usually a bad sign. That's why I'm really looking forward to have Eugene host some dedicated server. Look, even the smoke is lagging. But this is not necessarily the game fault, it's probably more the player fault. This is a game which requires a good CPU. Something we noticed from Airland Battle. And I think the requirement for this specific new title is pretty much the same. You need a good CPU. Good graphic card, but good CPU. Because with the amount of units that this game can end up having, it's really important that you have capacity to manage all this AI all over the place. We seem to be having a pretty big chopper offensive going on. These are my Chinese choppers. They have anti-air capacity. So they will be good to support an offensive in the center. Well, here I'm mostly using BMP. One of my choppers seemed to have received a missile in the face. This is quite an aggressive offensive attack with choppers. I can see Eurofighter and Su-27 shooting each other. And you can see that the planes did release some flares. Well, I guess since we do have controls of this zone, I will continue to advance forward with my troops. I'm not sure if I should go over there or over there. I think over there might be safer. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Well, my allies are really aggressive. Now that was likely the anti-infantry plane of the Australian. Another thing which is interesting in this game is that there's many hills, like here, for example, where you can go with your tanks. So this is there's many area which you will not expect to be able to go with. In with your vehicle, but now they are accessible, and there's no square border of an area of an hill like previously. So the infantry has been improved a little. Now most of the troops actually shooting. Yeah, as you can see, those bombs are really dangerous. One could say a little too dangerous. Okay, these are Royal Marine. This is one of the Canadian chopper there that I just shut down. I will call in some ships to support my troops. We don't have the zone or what? As you can see, this zone has been completely blown up. I guess I'll call in some infantry, some close quarter combat infantry and choppers. I will land them there. So it'll allow me to perhaps push on that zone. We'll also call in a chopper over here. We'll drop some bombs on that part of the town. Well, here I will send my anti-air infantry on that hill. I think they believe that I did put some reinforcements here. It seems that one of my reinforcement ship decided to come from the other side. So you can see him float across the river. He's following this side a little much. Warrior tanks, and that will be difficult. As you can see here, we're starting to have a pretty big navy. But one of the things that everybody that has tried this beta will agree with is that right now the ships are perhaps not expensive enough. Just really having that many ships at once. You can see some Su-27 attacking ships, destroying them. So what I'm doing here is I'm making a ship float on land. Yeah, I'm coming here with this small ship and I plan to provide some assistance. Yeah, of course, there's a sea harrier which came in and destroyed my poor little ship. I can see the amount of firepower those ships have in terms of defending themselves against air unit. Oh, well, air missile. I can see that the enemy is wasting many planes on attacking ships. I hope with the ship near my near the zone, I'll be able to hopefully suppress whatever enemy are there. But no, victory. That was too fast. Now let's see what killed what. Well, that was a really small game. Only did very little damage, but it was mostly done by my ships, which killed a lot of stuff. And I did not lose that much. Oh, yep. So I think it will be all for today. Those rounds were not particularly amazing, but I guess that gives you an idea. I think this game has some good potential. Yeah, I will probably do some live stream tomorrow as well, and for the next 9 days, because this beta will last 10 days. After that, it will be back to not having Red Dragon. But until we can pre-order it and probably have access to the next beta. So tomorrow I'll try to cover in the armory the Pact, so that will be interesting, because there's East Germany, Russia, Poland, Czechoslovakia, China, and North Korea. So that's a lot of new units potentially, and I'll see you tomorrow. So take care until then, and be there tomorrow.